Call to order the village board meeting number 3047. February 25th, 2013. It is 7:08. First thing we should do is roll call.
Lentz?
Here.
Meyer?
Here.
Here.
Semple?
Here.
Sullivan?
If you all join to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. First tonight, we're going to approve the minutes of the village board meeting of February 11th, 2013. Changes or
So moved. Second.
roll call, please.
Any discussion? Okay, Semple?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Lentz?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Nutschneck?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Time of our portion of the meeting for public commentary. Anyone wishing to address the board tonight, please raise your hands and come up to this pedestal right here and introduce yourself. And we want your address, your name and address, please. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Paul Papineau. I live at 446 Killarney Pass Circle, and I just want to congratulate the village on the great job they did with snow removal during street scenes and the storm we had after that. It was terrific. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to address the board, please?
Harold Hanson, 571 Banbury Road, Mundelein. I want to emphasize Paul's comments. All the 5 years we've lived here, the street department snow removal has been wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Anyone else tonight with any comments? Come right up.
Hi, my name is Jerry Haley. I'm one of the owners and the building manager of Woodlands Apartments, 550 Deepwoods Drive, Mundelein. I'm speaking here tonight about the proposed ordinance for recycling and waste hauling. A lot has been said on all sides of this recycle ordinance that is up for discussion and vote. I do believe that most, if not all parties, agree that recycling is good for all of us. I look at this ordinance having 3 parts: mandating that commercial, multifamily housing businesses to implement a recycling program. 2, mandating the exclusive franchise use of one specific waste hauler. 3, negotiate and dictate the removal cost of waste and recycled material by multifamily commercial businesses. The vote you possibly will make today should be based on the following criteria. Number 1, is this a good ordinance for the village of Mundelein? 2, does the proposed ordinance
fulfill the requirements of the objective to achieve 60% or more recycling by the year 2020? 3, how does mandating one specific waste hauler or at a fixed government negotiated price help or increase the success of your recycling goals? I believe that recycling ordinance as written discriminates against all multifamily businesses as you exclude all other commercial businesses. Who should also be mandated to assist in the community goal of 60% recycling? Dictating using one specific waste hauler does nothing to increase recycling, even 1%. Mandating a government-negotiated price that in my case will increase my yearly waste and recycle expense by over $1,000 will not increase recycling by any percent. Neither one of these two, the waste hauler or the price negotiation, increases recycling. My monthly contract with Viola for 46 units is $268.40. That's $5.83 a unit. Add the recycling and a monthly fee of $50, that's $1.08 per unit. Totaling amount, I would pay a total price of recycling on my present contract of $6.92 per unit. My contracts are here for you to look at. Forcing the use of one company eliminates the negotiated element of bidding for services. This closes the marketplace for competition and breeds poor service if you can't fire them if they're not doing their job. As a village trustee, what reasoning are you using to force us to use one waste hauler at a fixed price when there is no reason given for this being added to the ordinance, other than in your administrator's pamphlet it is stated, A, short timeline, which makes no sense to me, B, limited staff time to develop. You're making $1 million decision that we wind up paying for, and your administrator gives you 2 weak excuses on the option 1 in the recycling pamphlet dated November 19, 2012. The director of SWALCO, Mr. Richard Willis, and assistant village administrator, Mr. Mike Flynn, told me at separate meetings that the proceeds from the proposed recycling would be split between SWALCO, the village, and the business owners, but it still was open for discussions on where these monies would go. I sat at a meeting in Grays Lake where Mr. Willis told the village board of Grays Lake that SWALCO receives no monies from the results of recycling. Now, someone is confused or not telling the truth. Let's pass a good recycling ordinance that focuses on recycling and let our multifamily complex owner run their business with profitability, professionally, and without this unwanted, unwarranted, or certainly unexplained financial intrusion into how we manage our business, what we spend at our businesses, and what we use for services at our business, or who we use for services. It is apparent that a limited amount of multifamily owners will benefit financially by a reduction in the monthly charge they will pay per unit. These owners were definitely not bidding out their respective waste hauling and were paying excuse me, a much higher price due to their own lack of good management financial practices. Mr. Flynn and Walter Willis from SWALCO opened up their eyes, and now this small minority of unit owners are happy to be paying less money. They don't need Mundelein elected officials to do this. They just need to pick up the phone and get competitive bids for their services, just like they do when they buy a furnace, a vehicle, or any other expense. They need to be financially responsible business owners. The multifamily owners that were competitive bidding their respective services are now the ones who will lose that competitive edge by the monopoly you are creating with Groot Industries here in Mundelein. We have contracts with our respective waste haulers that have cancellation fees and penalties attached to them. Is the village going to indemnify all of us and pay our legal fees and or penalties that we possibly could incur as a result of the potential actions of not renewing other waste haulers' contracts, as I've been told you're going to do in May? Are you potentially opening yourself up to a lawsuit from other waste haulers? If recycling is all you want, this forced use of one waste hauler and forced higher price to some of us will not put one piece of paper into a recycling bin. Education will, as described by Swalco Best Practices, as indicated by Peggy Marchinek, who represents all the waste haulers in Illinois, and even your own village pamphlet indicates that education is the best possible way to increase recycling. Do you really want to alienate the people who are going to be your partners in this recycling effort by this unwanted and high-priced ordinance? Or can we just pass an ordinance that calls for recycling at all multifamily buildings and possibly other commercial properties in the future? Let us recycle. Let us educate our tenants. Let us choose the best possible waste hauler for our specific needs. Every one of our needs are different. Every one of our waste and recycled refuge bins are different in different locations. One that we can terminate if services are not satisfactory to us, and let us negotiate the best possible price for our commercial multifamily businesses. You represent all of Mundelein. Recycling is good for all of Mundelein. We don't object to that. Why is franchising one waste hauler good for Mundelein? Why is price negotiating by government for private enterprise good for Mundelein? The excuse of reducing trucks coming in and going through the village is smoke and mirrors by Swalco. You have many delivery trucks, asphalt trucks, landscape truck and equipment, FedEx, UPS trucks. Many different trucks come through our village every day. In fact, thousands of hard-working trucks that support our businesses and our family of our community. Are you now going to dictate what companies everybody uses for these trucks coming in and out? The whole excuse of trucks coming in and out of the village is smoke and mirrors, again, from Swalco. Pass a recycle ordinance that states we should recycle and eliminate the franchising of one waste hauler and leave the price negotiating to us. One other thing, is there a reason this ordinance is trying to be run through just prior to a new mayor and possibly up to 3 new trustees being elected in 30 days? These are the people that are coming in that are going to have to deal with for the next 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. Okay? If it was put off till after the election, at least we would have whatever trustees are going to be here and a new mayor to make the best decision for all of Mundelein. Please do what is right for Mundelein. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks, Jerry. Any response, John? Or? Okay. Very good.
Was there any questions from any of the trustees?
That's what I just asked, and there's none.
Thank you.
Next, presentation of awards. Oh, I'm sorry, one more, okay. See your hand up there, I'm sorry, pal.
That's okay. Mel Withrow, 600 McKinley, Mundelein. I live in Mundelein. I vote in Mundelein. Recycling is okay with us. For the government to tell us who to use without competitive business bidding is not okay, okay? So I'm not sure if anybody understands this. You know, it's hard to get the message across to people what is good and what is bad. Because right now, I'm a lot lower than what the bid is from Groot and Mundelein. I consider this a Mundelein Groot type bidding. I'm not sure. Does anybody else agree on that? Charlie, you think that's about right?
I can't respond. If you want to
Okay.
ask one of the trustees.
Okay. Okay. Now, as you know, solid waste haulers, they all have similar type contracts where it takes 6 months. You have to pay them 6 months once you cancel. We asked for Mike Flynn to get us a ruling on this, a court ruling, and he never did get us a court ruling. But I know if you cancel, the recent ones that I know of, they go to court, they go to small claims. So we should still have that, or we should have something in the rules on what the courts are going to say. You know, they go to court, right, Mike?
I'm not a legal expert, no, but on the issue.
Oh, I know, but you should have went to Charlie or one
We
of our
did.
legal experts.
If your question is about the cancellation,
Those what?
your question regards the
Yes.
cancellation of your contract.
Yes.
The way I understand it from a legal perspective is that you won't be canceling your contract because the hauler will not receive a village license when this is up in, goes into effect in May. They'll need to, as they do every year, the haulers apply for a business license. The only business license that will be issued to a scavenger for multifamily units will be to Groot. So the hauler, any other hauler servicing multifamily will not receive a license. So on that basis, they cannot serve you, so they will not be able to charge you for your, for a cancellation.
Well, according to all the waste haulers, you were incorrect. Because when we went to the Grace Lake meeting, and we had a meeting with the people, we asked the waste haulers, even though the village cancels it, do we still have to pay a cancellation? They said, absolutely, we have to pay the 6 months. So this is what the waste haulers are telling us. They're going to take it to court. So the question is Groot or Mundelein going to help us in these court fights? Is that a yes or a no, Mike?
It's our understanding from a legal perspective that that wouldn't apply, that you would not be.
Where are you getting this legal opinion? Because all the waste haulers are telling us something else.
We reviewed that with our village attorney, and we discussed that with other communities, and that's our understanding of how these types of franchises go into effect.
Well, we disagree with it, but we'd like to have that built into the ordinance, if it gets passed tonight, that Groot and the village of Mundelein will assist us owners on working on this cancellation policy, because I'm 100% convinced after talking to the waste haulers that it has to be paid, okay, or negotiated, or let's go to court and let the judge make the decision. We've had some here in Mundelein recently that went to court, you know, so.
All I can say is they won't have a license. They won't have a village license.
Oh, I know that they said that doesn't make any difference. They still want their 6 months cancellation, you know, because the village canceled it, but we still have to pay them 6 months. What's your opinion on that, John?
Well, my opinion's worth just about as much as Mr. Flynn's. I mean, I'm not an attorney either. But I can tell you this, Mel, that we can't speak to what was said in Grays Lake. I can't speak to what was the waste haulers are saying. I mean, you know how this is. I mean, the truth of the matter is that anybody can file a lawsuit against anybody for whatever reason they think is relevant. So we can't sit here and what if something happens. But I think we understand what your request is, and that is that you want to have language added into this ordinance that says that we're going to assist in the legal fees
Right.
for any multifamily property owner
Right.
should they end up in a lawsuit for some reason.
Right.
We understand the request,
Are we going to do the request?
but that's up to the board, and that's a
Okay.
vote. I
Does the
mean,
board think we should do this? Steve, what do you think?
I would suggest, Mel, that maybe you just make your comments, and then I think the board will have an opportunity when it appears on the agenda to discuss the matter
Maybe.
and take a vote on it.
Maybe. Okay, so in my case, it'll cost me roughly $4,000 to pay for the cancellation, okay? And Stacy, the manager for Park Butterfield, she couldn't be here tonight, so she asked me to present her case for her, you know, so I'm going to tell you what she gave me. So for Park Butterfield to cancel, it'll be $22,000, okay? And their additional fee per year for Park Butterfield is $12,500, okay? So, I mean, it's big bucks. A lot of these people, Park Butterfield, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with Mundelein, but they're the largest apartment complex in Mundelein, okay? And they do not have Groot now. They have a competitor. They're doing recycling currently, okay? And their prices have this recycling fee built into it at Park Butterfield. I don't know whether, has anybody looked at Park Butterfield's recycling? If not, they should do it. You know, how they do it with their containers, their enclosures, and their recycling bins. My opinion, I think it looks pretty good. Pete, have you seen that? Yeah, so I think it's a well-run thing, you know, so I think we should use examples when we start negotiating these things so that we can see what's really happening in our community. You know, if people want to know about our community, who lives here, who votes here, and what we do in our community, you know. Okay, thank you.
All right. Very good. Thanks, Mel. Anyone else wanting to comment tonight? Please step up to the microphone, please. Identify yourself and give us your address.
Charles Thompson, 155 South Chicago Avenue, Elmwood Apartments. I'm going to be reading a brief statement regarding the solid waste ordinance that's up this evening. But first, I'd just like to ask a question of the trustees and anyone present here this evening that's going to have a vote on this. And by a show of hands, if you would just answer the following question. Do any of you believe it is a good, a right, and a just thing for government to strip the personal rights and freedoms of its citizens whom they allege to serve in order for government to achieve its own goals and objectives? I sure hope you remember that when it comes time to motion.
Thompson, this is not a situation where we have an interaction. If you're simply...
I'll read my statement now,
and,
thank
and
you.
I'm listening very,
Okay.
very carefully. Thank you.
All right, to say the least, this issue for many of us here has become quite tiring, but as Thomas Jefferson reminds us, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. The untold time, energy, and resources applied by the village to forceful implementation of this ordinance is quite peculiar. For anyone living under the delusion that the passage of this ordinance is the bureaucratic equivalent of playing Mother Teresa to the earth, I would like to remind you that what this is really about. This agenda is, and always has been, to seize further control over private property by the incremental erosion of personal rights and freedoms. The authoritarian jackboot known as UN Agenda 21 is poised and ready to be placed firmly on the throat of every business and property owner in this village. I will again remind you that as elected and appointed public servants, your first obligation is to protect the rights of your constituents. I urge all village trustees, anyone voting here tonight, to stand with the citizens of this village in the preservation of personal rights and the notion of self-governance. Further, I challenge you to make a motion to once and for all end the debate on this issue, to stop wasting resources in an attempt to sell false solutions, and to never bring it up again. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Anyone else out in the audience would like to speak in or address the board tonight? See no more hands. Go on to the next part of the agenda, and that would be a presentation of awards. We do not have any presentation of any awards tonight. Public hearings, I'm not aware of any. Very good. Now comes number 8, the mayor's report. There's a couple mayoral proclamations. And there's the first one tonight, the Good Neighbor Award. It's regarding Ms. Hazel D. Walker. Are we present tonight, Hazel? How you doing? You want to stand up? I got something to read here for you. From what I understand, you did quite a heroic act a few weeks ago here, on January 28th, 2013. And I'm going to read this mayoral proclamation, which will actually be passed on to you in a nice framed amount. The mayor's not here yet, but he will be, and hopefully we'll sign this and we'll present this to you a little bit later, okay? So hopefully he'll be here a little bit later. But I just want to read this to you, because we're very proud of what you did for us, and it meant the saving, I think, virtually of someone's life here. Whereas the Village of Mundelein Board believes that instances of individual heroism and assistance to others that occur within the village should be recognized and honored. And whereas Hazel D. Walker is a Mundelein High School student and Mundelein resident, and whereas on the evening of January 28th, 2013, Ms. Walker was in the area of Cortland and South Chicago Avenue and on her way home from school when she saw movement out of the corner of her eye and noticed that an unknown subject face down in the deep hole and was in a puddle of muddy water. And whereas, disregarding her own safety, Ms. Walker went to the aid of this subject, attempting to drag the subject from the water, turned the subject on his back, and after expending considerable energy, Ms. Walker called 911 and directed first responders to the area where the male subject was located. And whereas Dr. Michael Perlman, the attending physician in the emergency room of Advocate Condell Medical Center in Libertyville, where the patient was transported, in a letter to the village stated, on arrival to the emergency department, this patient was found to be in cardiac arrest and profoundly hypothermic. Okay. And in summary, had Miss Walker not found this individual and directed the first responders to provide their critical care, this individual could have easily died. So whereas the patient, after extensive critical care in the hospital, did recover, thanks to you. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and Board of Trustees in the Village of Mundelein of Lake County, Illinois, that Ms. Hazel D. Walker be recognized and commended for her alertness, concern for others, responsiveness, and bravery, and that she be presented with the Mundelein Good Neighbor Award in honor of her actions, proclaimed, signed, and sealed this 25th day of February 2013 in the Village of Mundelein, Lake County, Illinois. Well, congratulations. Very good. Very good. Now, there's a second part of this, and Chief Shasko would like to present also an award to you.
I'll steal the microphone if Chief Gunther could come up. That letter from Dr. Perlman is kind of important, and we had that framed for Hazel because of the fact that he is our project medical director for our EMS system in our area here. And Dr. Perlman is a leader in emergency medicine and really somebody that we look up to. And, you know, we had paraphrased a little bit of the letter in that proclamation, but it was really amazing after talking to him. The very next day we had a meeting at the hospital, and they worked on this patient for almost 7 hours, which is just absolutely remarkable, and was revived. Numerous times was in cardiac arrest in the emergency room. And Hazel, if it wasn't for what you did in combining with police and fire and actually getting him to the hospital and that care and level of concern that you had, that person probably would not be here today. So it really is outstanding what you did. So we had this letter framed, and we gave Hazel some extra copies of it earlier, always great for resume building later on. So, so here, Chief Gunther and I would like to present that to you. If you want to come up here, we're going to take a couple pictures because I know we've got a couple cameras around here.
We'll bring it to you.
We'll bring a copy or get to you a copy of that proclamation that's signed and framed as well. Next is drawing your attention to National Severe Weather Preparedness Week, March 3rd through 9th, 2013. That's in Exhibit 3. The next item pertains to Ruprick Company, which is a meat and food packing company that we're pleased to have in Mundelein. They're looking to do some additions to their building. First is a motion to accept the Plan Commission minutes and findings of fact. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion is by Semple. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Meyer. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Yes.
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 Sullivan?
Yes.
Carries?
Okay, motion carries. Next is a motion to accept the Plan Commission recommendations.
So moved.
Motion by Semple. Is there a second?
Second.
By Nutchning. Yeah, we're a little bit hot on the microphones tonight. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Semple?
Yes.
Nutchnag?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, motion to authorize staff to draft an ordinance granting a variation of section 20.10.3 to allow maximum building height of 50 feet for Rupert Company.
So moved.
Motion by Semple.
Second.
Second by Meyer. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Semple?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Lentz?
Yes.
Nutchnag?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next is a motion to authorize staff to draft an ordinance granting a variation of section 20.10.04 D1F to allow metal panels as the primary material for proposed building addition to Rupert Company.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Meyer, and the second is by Semple. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer?
Yes.
Semple?
Yes.
Lentz?
Yes.
Nutchnag?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Would you like to take a moment to tell us what you're going to do with the, I think somebody from Rupert's here, right? There you are in the back, okay. Like, take a minute to just tell us what you're going to do now that we got this all approved. Give us your name for the clerk.
My name is Frank Contine. I'm with Harris Architects. I'll be the project manager. Ruprecht, they're a meat processing facility. What they want to do with this expansion is increase a new line. It's a state-of-the-art line. It's not done now. A portion of this expansion will be employee facilities, new locker rooms. They have to keep all their employees separate. Another portion, the office area, and a viewing area over their floor, their process floor, so they can bring in other companies to show off what they're doing. They currently have about 250 employees. Day one, they hope to add 50 to this expansion, and we're preparing them for 100 because they thought they would have 175. They have 250, so more. They're expanding quickly, so
Good.
very aggressive company.
Very good. Well, we had a chance to buy some of the products, which are normally wholesale, but we bought some for the summer employee cookout, and very good stuff. So
Excellent.
glad to have you guys here. on
Excellent.
Monday.
They're very happy to be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, as we've talked a little bit about, we have the branding selection committee that we need to have a couple of trustees working on. Mr. Lebedo, I believe RFPs went out?
Yes, RFQs.
RFQs,
Yep.
okay.
And we're, as we follow the same process as others, we're just looking to put together a group from our different commissions and two board members, to, once the RFQs come in, to weed through those and go through an interview process.
Okay, and the process on the RFQs is anyone who does this kind of work can respond, and then the committee will select the best qualified firm.
Correct.
Any trustees want to serve on this committee?
Yeah,
Meyer,
I'll volunteer.
Trustee Lentz, anyone else? Only have two. So we'd have to have a rock, paper, scissors, or something like that if more than two wanted to be on it.
Right, right.
All right, well, if trustees Meyer and Lentz are satisfactory, we'll have them do that. Thank you very much. No other reports. Trustee Meyer, if you give us Public Works Committee report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight we had a Public Works Committee meeting, and we discussed the Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan Review, and the committee made a recommendation for a subsequent meeting to bring in a proposal to adopt that Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan Review.
Okay.
So that was one thing, and then we have several motions tonight, and the first category is related to interior painting of the water distribution facilities. That would be Exhibit Public Works-1. So the first motion would be to accept all bids related to that.
Okay. Okay. Trustee Meyer is making the first. Trustee Semple is seconding. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk, call the roll.
Yes.
Excuse me, Meyer?
Yes.
Semple?
Yes.
Lenz?
Yes.
Nutchnag?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
The second motion that we have tonight is a motion to issue a notice of award accepting the proposal from Sparkle Paint and Construction Company, subject to the approval and execution of a satisfactory contract and receipt of required bonding and insurance.
Second the motion.
Okay, motion by Meyer, second by Semple. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer?
Yes.
Yes.
Lenz?
Yes.
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 Motion
And
carries.
the final motion that I have for tonight is a motion to authorize the Director of Public Works and Engineering to negotiate a reduction in project scope and corresponding contract value.
Second.
By Meyer, second by Semple. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Meyer?
Yes.
Semple?
Yes.
Lenz?
Yes.
Nutchnag?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Motion carries. Any other reports for Public Works?
No, that would be all I have for tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Finance Committee, Trustee Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, there is one motion to consider. It is a motion to authorize, approve the payment of bills to AT&T. This amount is $1,908.59. I believe we'll have an abstention, and I will make the motion.
Okay, motion is by Sullivan. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Nutchnag. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Nutchnag?
Yes.
Lenz?
Yes.
Meyer?
Abstain.
Yes.
Motion carries.
This evening on the omnibus vote items, we have a motion to approve our bill list for the last couple of weeks. This amount is $602,712.13. The major payment to be made is one to Johnson Controls. This is in regard to their efforts under the contract we have awarded them to create energy efficiency in our facilities. You may, and as I've discussed this with our Public Works and Engineering Director, this amount is mainly for work at our water reclamation plant, our wastewater treatment plant, to replace large blowers that are used in the aeration of effluent at the tank, or at the numerous tanks out at the plant, and as well as for some contractual work. And we'll deal with that under the omnibus list. And that's all I have this evening.
Okay, since we're on the topic of money, a couple of meetings ago, we had talked about JAWA expanding and attaching other people. I asked the question, and they're paying a per person, there's I can't think of the right word, it's like a attachment fee that retroactively pays for, some of the infrastructure plus all the new infrastructure.
Okay, so they pay for bringing the water from its closest source.
They have to pay all that, but
Plus
then there's a
they're paying-
hookup fee.
This is a capital recapture
Right, right.
per capita basis.
Yep.
Have any idea how much it is?
A lot, but I don't know the exact amount. Like enough that it's like funding a lot of, I knew it, but I forgot it. But it's funding a lot of the upgrades that need to be done and certain things that would need to be done right now that we'd have to come up with the money for. It's basically funding a lot of that.
Unrelated to the expansion.
Unrelated to that.
That's reassuring, thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good deal.
But they are a long ways from putting together the funding mechanism to bring Lake Michigan water
Another issue.
15, 20 miles away.
Okay, public safety, trustee Semple.
Chief Gunther, you first.
Thank you. Just two small things. A reminder, we have our liquor license annual meeting on March 7th, 7:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. at the police department for all liquor license holders. And second, some of our employees at the police department as well as the village participated in the annual polar plunge this weekend up at Fox Lake, which benefits the Special Olympics Illinois, and we're able to raise just under $3,000. So congratulations to them, Mr. Flynn, for your efforts and participation in that. So thanks.
Terrific. Chief Sashko.
Just a couple things for the board. Earlier today, Director Boucher, Chief Gunther, myself, Deputy Chief Monahan, and Commander Hanson attended the new program that got launched by the county through Lake County Emergency Management. We've been put into what's called a combined statistical area to evaluate basically readiness and resource management in the event we had a large-scale incident. And so the county is spearheading this. There are regional catastrophic planning teams, preparedness teams that come together under a federal grant from the Department of Homeland Security and basically design or manage these resource management programs for emergency management. You have to keep in mind, police, fire, public works, and all the other entities within the village in the event of a major disaster, a tornado. We just had, National Severe Weather Awareness Week earlier with the proclamation. We're out in the street doing those things as far as mitigating those incidents, but behind the scenes, emergency management's coordinating all the resources, and that crosses, all spectrums of what we do within the village, and that's why we've been working feverishly on trying to stand up our EOC across the hall and make it functional. Our team got together earlier last week, started doing some revising to our emergency operations plan, so we'll be presenting that to the board in the near future. And adding a lot of different details to it as we move forward. So it's kind of an exciting program. Most of the entities within the county were there as far as police, fire, public works, elected officials, you name it. So we'll be working on that and kind of probably just give you briefings behind the scenes as that develops throughout the rest of the year. The other thing is just quickly, we had our blood drive recently and had 81 units donated. So again, it was a very successful drive for the community. Anything over 30 is a great drive. So very proud of the community and the continued support of that. And then earlier today, North Shore Gas was here, and we had a bunch of carbon monoxide detectors that were donated to us. Probably be featured in the Herald maybe tomorrow or the day after. For needy families and those that don't have them, when we go out on calls between police and fire, we evaluate that. And if we don't see detection within a home, that's a critical piece, obviously, this time of year, but throughout the year. And so North Shore Gas had donated about 40 units to us, and also to the Grays Lake Fire Protection District, covering those two areas of their service area. So we were really happy to have that support from them. And I think other than that, the Western training, I had emailed the board earlier about that. That started today very successfully. Pretty impressive group with their hazmat work and what they do with the hazmat mitigation. So if you want to pop in and see what they're doing, they have a lot of hands-on throughout this week, and then they'll be back here again March 11th. And that is my report, sir.
Thank you, Chiefs. All set, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Community development, trustee Voss is not here. That would be Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will attempt to do the good job that trustee Voss does in her report, so we won't have one tonight. Thank you.
No report? Okay.
No report tonight, no.
Permits committee, trustee Nutschnig.
Yes, Mayor, I have no report for tonight.
Transportation infrastructure, trustee Lenz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's no list of motions tonight, just to report that we did have a meeting on Thursday, the 21st, for the residents of Loch Lomond affected by Phase 1 of the rehabilitation project. And I think probably around 110 people were there. It was standing room only in the police training room. And it went very well. John Lebedo did a great job of emceeing that meeting. Adam Boucher, Bill Emmerich did a great job of leading the very informative session. I would say it lasted over 2 hours. And afterwards, lots of folks came up and asked questions, and it was very informative. Now, let's see, over the next 2 weeks, we'll have a report,
Yeah,
something like that?
You could have it as early as this week, but no later than next week.
Okay.
There'll be a report to the board. Just, the purpose of the meeting was to, excuse me, was to get some input from the residents and to make sure we understand what their concerns were. And so we're going to be able to, we're taking that input along with some of the cost factors and doing different things. And we're heard pretty clearly that they're, concerned about safety. There's some ancillary things that they were concerned about, including cut-through traffic and speeding. I know I've talked to the police chief about those matters, and we're looking into that. And but as far as the project goes, they're concerned about the lake, the ecology of the lake, and there's safety concerns, bicyclists, pedestrian, walkers in that subdivision. And so we're kind of assembling all of that and seeing what makes sense, keeping an eye on the cost. We're going to let the board know, as well as the homeowners association, where we've ended up with all those various items. So that should be coming out, if not this week, then next week.
Now, engineering released a 2-page FAQ sheet, I believe, also, that has been posted on the association's website.
Oh.
Currently, it's behind the login portion of the website. So, but that was just released, and that has some great information as well.
Yeah, that'll be included in the materials going back out to the village board.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
Yep.
Next, under other reports, trustees, what is it? Next, under other reports, trustees Lentz and Meyer had been working on the team with regard to this expansion of the solid waste agreement with Groot. We have 2 motions there on the agenda this evening. One is a motion to pass an ordinance amending Ordinance 9317, an ordinance adopting the Village of Mundelein Municipal Solid Waste Code. Somebody wish to make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion is by trustee Lentz. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, second is by Sullivan. Discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I won't be able to support that motion. That through the discussions and the negotiations, there were a variety of factors that, while I understand, I fully support recycling, and I always have, and I understand the concern of the landlords, and the $8.25 appears to be a reasonable price. However, and there are some that are going to have a lower rate than others. But during that process, there were other things that came up, and we did not include townhomes. There was some pricing on townhomes, which I was rather surprised at, and it came up into residential rates, which I think are rather high at this point. And during that process, there was no negotiation to even look at those residential rates. And I know that, Mike went the extra mile. He did the studies, and in comparison of where Mundelein falls, it's a very reasonable place where Mundelein falls on other communities being higher, and we're in a really good position on that. But, I go on the philosophy that if you're satisfied with the way things are, then you're never going to see any improvements, either in cost reductions or improving anything. And I'm rather troubled that we really didn't try to renegotiate that rate. And so what it means is that we would continue from where we're at, and the next 3 years, starting in May 2014, that rate would continue to go higher. So there are various aspects related to both the multifamily and the residential, and so I really don't feel that I can support either one of the motions that will be made tonight.
Okay.
Trustee Meyer, correct, I know it was a few years ago, wasn't it you and I on the negotiating committee for this original hauler agreement?
Yes.
And we agreed, and after all the due diligence and after reading some of the stuff that staff just put out, I thought we did a pretty thorough job on the residential side, and I thought the task of Lentz and Meyer was to negotiate a waste haul agreement for multifamily. I don't recall us telling you guys to go back and reopen the Pandora's box. Did I miss something, or?
One of the options always was, though, that if there was not an agreement reached, one of the options was to not do anything with multifamily, and then as the current residential contract comes up, there was the opportunity to renegotiate that contract for 2014, send it out to bid, renegotiate, or make a determination not to continue it. So there were options that were discussed while Trustee Lentz and I were working on the multifamily aspect.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Sullivan?
Number of concerns have come up, and they've been concerns that we've heard before, and I've considered, and I'm sure all of my colleagues have considered those concerns. The question is this a good ordinance? And I believe it is. The main purpose of this ordinance is to increase substantially the amount of recycling material, or material that can be recycled from multifamily establishments and apartment complexes in the village. And I think this is going to be effective in that regard. So the number one purpose will be met. To pass an ordinance requiring recycling is really the heavy-handed approach in regard to creating recycling, because along with that, what we're doing is creating a law and saying you will recycle. And if you don't, we're going to fine you. And of course, that's the heavy-handed part of it. An objection in regard to termination penalties, and I've seen these contracts. These haulers want to penalize you if you terminate early. But the customer isn't terminating the contract. The village is terminating the contract. And so there is no liability to the hauler in that regard. If you want to accept the legal opinion of a dog doctor, that is. And not only that, but there is no longer a license for anyone but Groot to come into the village and contract and bill you for picking up refuse and recyclable material. In regard to the cost, we really perhaps are unable to compare costs effectively, other than to understand that this is a competitive price, that the majority of individuals are going to have a lower cost, that is a lower cost to each apartment complex, the majority of them, that your price will be honored by Groot for 12 months, and then there is a set amount of increase in the contract that is provided for. Would it be nice to have a perfect world and have everything happen the way we would like it to happen in regard to recycling? Yeah, it would be nice, but it's not the real world. I think we have achieved savings for the majority, a large majority of customers who have refuse and recycling picked up from multifamily establishments. I know that's happened in the residential end of the business, and I have no concerns in regard to approving these ordinances. with those understandings.
The multifamily contract would then be 4 years, and by extending the residential contract, we lose an opportunity of receiving input from the residents both on what they've seen in that initial contract, and we lose the ability to try and renegotiate any pricing.
Because of the
If we extend the
residential contract
Yeah, if-
consecutively with the, or at the same time?
If we add in the residential contract with this multifamily portion, which we are, we're extending we're adding multifamily, and in addition, we're extending the residential contract. And so by doing that, then the multifamily ends up with a 4-year contract, which I know that they did not want really anything more than 3. And because we're extending the residential contract, instead of this coming up next year and asking the residents what their experience has been or trying to renegotiate the price, we've already, by doing this tonight, we'll lock in the price for another 3 years for the residents. And not only lock in, but it'll continue to go higher instead of trying to renegotiate. And so I think we're losing several opportunities here.
Well, as far as resident opinion, anyone who is dealing with Groot calls the village if they have a problem, and I don't think that we are seeing a significant number of complaints. And of course, that's one of the concerns about the multifamily owners, is that they don't have any control over Groot. Well, you do have control over Groot, and I think we got more control over them. We have a bigger hammer over them now than an individual who's trying to deal with somebody on their own. And there are provisions that address a failure to provide good service in these contracts. You don't call Groot, you call the village. Is this competitive? I think it is. I've looked at what it costs. In fact, I pay pick up in a number of areas. I've talked to people in other areas for what it costs, and I think we're achieving savings.
And we're
For
satisfied.
everybody in the village.
And I look at it as we're satisfied with the status quo, with the way things are. And I know that when you contact different utilities and businesses and try to renegotiate a price, that frequently you can do that. And so I think we're losing an opportunity to renegotiate a price. And while we might be all satisfied with the price that it's at and where it falls in the scheme of all the other villages, we still have not tried to renegotiate that price.
I don't know. Is that true? That we haven't renegotiated the price with them?
Residential.
The price was negotiated originally.
It was in the original contract, but when you renew a contract, that gives you an opportunity at that point to have price negotiations. And while we negotiated for the multifamily, there, at least, between what we were involved in and what I have knowledge of, there was no negotiation of the residential portion of that, yet we're extending it.
Oh, I was just going to confirm what Trustee Meyer said, and that is we didn't go into renegotiations of the single-family price point, in part for, well, 2 reasons. One, that wasn't the direction from the board initially. We were focused on the multifamily. Number 2 is, it's an amendment to the existing agreement. But opening up discussions in other areas, works both ways. The hauler has an opportunity to negotiate with us as well. So it's hard to say, but we didn't embark down that path because that's not what our original objectives were. We had a multitude of other things on our plate that we were negotiating, and I think that's true. There's limits of adjustments to the contract that range from 2% to 4%, depending on what the cost of living adjustment was for that year. So every year there is an acceleration or an increase in the single waste hauler price of anywhere from 2% at the minimum, maximum 2%.
When you say that this extension wasn't negotiated, the original agreement is being extended, and the original agreement was negotiated.
Correct.
There are changes that occur, though, after several years. Life does not stay static.
Well, yeah, the changes that have occurred is fuel has skyrocketed, wages are increasing, and the costs of everything have gone up. Look at when we have to buy a big truck. It cost us 10 years ago. It costs us today. Sometimes the price increases are unbelievable. But to think that you're going to renegotiate and you're going to cause the price to go down, I don't think it's realistic.
But we didn't even ask. We didn't even try.
I don't know as we'd phrase it. I don't think that we didn't try is accurate from my viewpoint. But did we ask them for a bid? No, we didn't. But staff has been talking to them for a long, long time. I think that the proposals that are before us for the extension of the residential contract and the initiation of the multifamily is a good deal.
I've said what I need to say, and so I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
One thing to point out is that one benefit that does come with this is that the single-family homes can switch to a larger recycling cart, also known by me as the Kessler program, since we talked about doing that quite a few years ago, and once again declared to have a hole in my head. So anyway, basically you would switch your recycling container to be the big container because everybody finds that the little ones tend to get full and the big ones don't have much in them. So that will be a benefit to single-family homes, which will drive the, what is the motto? Recycle first, trash last. Like that, yeah. Any other discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Meyer?
No.
Nutchneg?
Yes.
Semple?
Yes.
Okay, 4-1. Motion carries. Next is a motion to adopt or motion to pass an ordinance.
Mayor, if a trustee is financially benefiting from this vote, shouldn't they have excused themselves? Personally, financially benefiting from this vote, they should have excused themselves.
On the trustee to disclose that publicly. We haven't heard any disclosure of that.
Well, I think Mr. Sullivan just disclosed that he has some properties a few minutes ago and said that it's a benefit to him.
As a customer, that is not.
I asked a question. It was a question I wanted to bring it up.
Okay, so the answer is that as a customer of the company, you're not prohibited from voting on the ordinance. It's a legal opinion. Okay, next, motion to pass an ordinance amending ordinance 9-318, an ordinance designating Groot Industries, Inc. as an exclusive residential solid waste collection contract within the village of Mundelein and authorizing execution of an exclusive residential services collection agreement with Groot. Mr. Flynn has a couple of minor modifications to this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There were a couple of changes that came in as a result of a phone call with Groot after this was put on the agenda. And I'd just like to draw your attention to Exhibit A, which is the exclusive agreement. On page 10 of that agreement, it currently, only the month and year are shown in the fourth line. It reads, from May 2013 to May 2014. We'd like to insert May 1, 2013 to May 1, 2014, subject to a rate increase instead of May 2014, May 1, 2014. And then in Section 2, it previously requested or required the contractor to provide a copy of its current contract. That should be replaced with its January 2013 garbage bill in place of contract. And the last line, a correct, complete copy of said bill rather than said contract. Those are, with those changes, everything else remains the same as in the packet.
So with those changes, does somebody wish to make the motion?
So moved.
Motion by Lentz. Is there a
Second
second?
that.
By Sullivan. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Lentz,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Meyer,
No.
Netchneg,
Yes.
Semple.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, that takes care of all the other reports, I believe, unless there's something else. Okay, we'll move on to the omnibus items. We have 4 items. Anything that needs to be removed? Mr. Sullivan? A is removed by Mr. Sullivan. Anything else? Motion to pass the remaining items?
So moved.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Lentz.
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Netchneg,
Yes.
Semple.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Mr. Sullivan, item A regarding the Park and Seymour corner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have before me, this motion is to authorize you to execute the lease for the lot at the southwest corner of Park and Seymour, known as the McGrath property. And Mr. and Mrs. McGrath are named as the leaseors. And in the monthly rent, it says none in the copy of the lease that I have. Now, have the McGraths agreed to no rental amount?
We've agreed to do minor repairs to the parking lot and provide snowplow services because that parking lot gets used quite often by the general public. That we, in exchange for this lease, we've agreed to do some minor things. And last time I remember anything of substance, I think we did a little bit of work on the storm inlets. That was several years ago. Maybe we fill some potholes, but for the most part, we plow it.
But now this lease has been in existence for a number of years. Last year was the first year we paid them $6,000.
That lease is in conjunction with, through Mundelein Community Connection.
Oh,
They're
okay.
paying.
All right. That clears. Mundelein Community Connection is still paying.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll make a motion to approve
Second.
this lease.
Okay, motion by Sullivan, second by Semple. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Yes.
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 Okay, all the omnibus items are taken care of. Mr. Lebedo, Administrator's report, please.
I just had 2 items. One is a department staff meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Assuming everybody can make it to work through the snow. Number 2 is really just to let the board know that we're finishing up the budget documents. They should be out, the first draft of the budget documents should be out around the first of the month. And I think you'll see that it's a little bit different format. We hope that the new format is a little bit more useful to you and maybe a little bit easier to read and understand. I'll check with my IT department, see if it's iPad friendly. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marino. Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, any report from your office? No report tonight. Okay, thank you. Is there any other business?
Well, yeah, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Haley mentioned that I had some interest in multi-waste, multi-unit waste contract. And it's true that I own a condominium in the village of Mundelein, along with 8 other owners, and we will be subject in the condominium to waste hauler contract. I should tell you, it's going to greatly reduce our cost, and that really is not a great influence on my position in the matter. But if I were to believe Mr. Haley, without doing any research, it seemed like me approving this would be throwing myself in the briar patch. At any rate, just wanted to explain where the comment was coming from in regard to a conflict of interest. And, of course, on the same bent, if there actually was a conflict of interest, none of us would have been able to vote on the residential contracts. So I think it's the law that we all live in Libertyville. It affects us all. Thank you very much.
Well, the same thing would pertain to electrical aggregation or any of the other ordinances that we voted on that saved people a bunch of money. So the only prohibited situations that I know of is when you're financially benefiting from the decision, as in you're getting paid or your stock appreciates or something like that. So unless Groot offered you a free pickup for your garbage, which we pay for water and everything else just like everyone else does. So I think we're good. Motion to adjourn? Motion by Meyer, second by Semple. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.